Anyways, let's move on to the final movie for today's show, A Nightmare on Elm Street from 1984. And this is exactly what the internet needs, another Nightmare on Elm Street review.
We are the first ones.
There's not a whole lot of them out there, so this is what we do. We bring you the reviews of movies that you can't find reviews for anywhere else. Anyways, it's about a child murderer who invades the dreams of teenagers to get revenge on the parents who were responsible for his death. And that's Freddy Krueger, of course. We all know him. He wears a stupid Christmas sweater and has knives on a glove that he wears on his hand, so... Obviously, it's a classic movie. I mean, I don't know how anyone could come across this movie and give it a bad score. There's just going to be varying degrees of how much you enjoyed it. And obviously, I think it's a very good movie. I do enjoy the movie. I remember, I don't know if it was the first time I saw it, but certainly one of the earliest times that I saw it was at a friend's birthday party. He had some sort of sleepover thing where we just watched a bunch of horror movies. I remember watching this and I think Aliens. I'm not sure if we watched a third movie, but these are the two that I remember. And yeah, I always found the movie, at least as a child, to be quite scary. I mean, it's especially those earlier scenes in the dark. I mean, my favorite scene in the movie is that scene where he's chasing Tina. Just, you know, you first get introduced to his character. It's very dark. Even the scene, which kind of looks corny, but where his arms are just extended. I mean, back when I was a child, that freaked the shit out of me. So, you know, it's kind of funny to look back on it now and kind of laugh at it. But yeah, I mean, what else do I need to say about the movie? I mean, what do you think of this one?
Much like you, this is one that I would go as far as to say it's one of like the horror movies that sort of shaped my love for the genre. Growing up, I was mostly raised on, you know, Universal movies: Dracula, Frankenstein, Creature from the Black Lagoon, the black and white classics. And this is one of the earliest, I guess you can say, quote unquote, more modern day horror movies I saw. My parents got it on VHS from probably Blockbuster, and you know, they were watching it, and it scared the shit out of me. Like, this movie terrified me when I first saw it. In fact, I don't think I actually finished it that time because I was hiding behind either the couch or the chair. During the finale, once she walks through the closet, you know, basement into the giant, you know, industrial factory, and it was just terrifying. So I have a lot of like great memories of this movie, and like you said, it's a classic. It's generally loved by everyone. I don't think it's a perfect movie. There's always been, no matter how many times I've seen this movie, there's always been one sequence that I don't fully understand the logic behind it, but for the most part, I mean, the movie is pretty much, it's a score the first time you see it as the most recent time, and it's a movie that you can watch pretty much any time you see it down. Generally, I need to watch a movie from beginning to end, but there are times when this just happens to be on TV, you know, and I just watch it from wherever it's at because it's such an entertaining movie, especially seeing Nancy turn into sort of a kick-ass heroine toward the end when she's trying to blow Freddy up with a light bulb, or throwing gasoline on him, setting him on fire. It's just fun stuff.
Actually, I should mention that there is one other scene in the movie that I typically also am fond of, which is the body bag scene.
Don't forget your hall pass.
Hey, and it's got Lynn Shay as the teacher.
I'm going to, I guess, one of my favorite sequences in this movie is the dream sequence right before Tina's death. I mean, Tina's death itself is, you know, great, where she's being, like, dragged along the walls, but the dream sequence beforehand, you know, where he's walking down the alleyway and his arms, you know, are elongated, I really like that sequence, especially when he pops up behind the tree. It just, on that line, "This is God." I just really like the whole, like, 3-minute scene. I just think it's fantastic, and there are plenty of great scenes, like the body bag scene. just the fact that, Nancy's walking down the highway and then leaves start blowing in the highway, and it becomes like more like a fantasy type thing. There's a lot of really great things in this movie, and obviously it's a movie a lot of horror fans love, and I think they love it for good reason. And among them, Robert Englund's very strong performance as Freddy Krueger. I mean, he basically makes this horror guy into like a household name. I think he does a really good job with it.
Bit of a corny ending, though.
Yeah, the ending is an interesting choice. like even when as soon as Nancy and her father, played by John Saxon, who I really like in this movie, get up to the bathroom and they see Freddy on top of the mother. Like from that point on, I don't understand anything that's going on in the movie. Like the ending. Oh, I think when you stop drinking, it's just confusing. I just think it makes much sense, but I do think it's in its own nostalgic way. I think it's corny fun, like especially the final scene when she's just poured through the window. It just looks so horrible, but it's just fantastic. I mean, who can legitimately hate that besides Wes Craven?
Yeah.
What do you think about Johnny Depp?
I mean, I like Johnny Depp from the early 90s and 80s, I guess. He's a bit of a douche in more recent times, but, I don't really care about him. I'm glad he dies.
One thing I wish I had seen more of in this movie was, I guess Nancy and Depp's character were dating, but we didn't really see much of that. And I wish that, just like that conversation they were having toward the end, but how Nancy's into survival. It just that conversation itself seems a bit awkward. But they just didn't really seem like friends at different points in this movie, which it's a small thing, but I just wish they had done a bit more. Another point where they bring up the poster for this movie, which I'm looking at right now. It's just fantastic.
One other thing I'm thinking about is, and I don't know when exactly at what point they did this, but I mean, we're all familiar with the Nightmare on Elm Street TV series. I assume you've at least watched some of those episodes?
I just watched the first two-parter where it gave the origin.
There is one episode, I think it's called A Photo Finish, where some detectives are trying to solve some sort of murder, and Freddy actually makes an appearance in the actual episode, kind of more towards the end, but he's involved in the actual story, and that particular episode, for some reason, still kind of sticks with me. It still feels somewhat scary to me. Kind of gives me similar vibes back to the original movie in terms of how it scared me, but certainly looks a lot cheaper than the actual movie itself does. But I would say if there's any episode out there from the TV series to watch, I would recommend that one. I think it's called A Photo Finish. So if you can find it, watch it. I'm sure you'll enjoy it on some level if you enjoy A Nightmare on Elm Street, the movie. Yeah,
I'm just reading about it, and it looks like one of the main characters in the episode is played by Patty McCormick, who is a pretty classic actress. So that's even another reason to go find that one. I've not personally seen it, but it does sound interesting. How do you feel about the bathtub sequence?
It's a good scene, but it's it's still not one of the best scenes in the movie for me. Like those other two scenes are my highlights: the body bag scene and the Tina dream scene.
Yeah, I think it's one of the probably more unique scenes, and it's one of the scenes that sort of sticks with me. I mean, to be fair, a lot of this movie sticks with me. The random scene in the dream clinic where the guy just talking about how we don't really know what dreams are. It seemed a bit, more dramatic than anything. But obviously, it's a classic movie. And I also just want to give kudos to the opening sequence, I just, with Freddy's making the glove and, Tina's just walking around this huge industrial factory. And I just think it looks really effective, and it's just a fantastic way to open the movie. And of course, that line, you've got to stop that type of dreaming. Some quality advice. I also really like Nancy's reaction to seeing the bars on her windows. That just cracks me up every time. She just sort of slams the door open, screaming just screaming, "Mother!" Like she's just pissed. I always like this. Like this is just one of those movies. It's sort of like a feel-good movie. I've seen this one so many times. I've seen it drunk. I've seen it high. I can watch it in any state of mind, and it's just a fun time. I especially like Ronnie Blakely, who plays the mother. Her scenes where she's just so out of it, and she's just like trying to hide that Freddy's hat. Nancy knows, hey, it's the hat. She knows it's right there. She just put it away. And it's just there's so many small things in this movie that combine into just a fantastic experience. And at the expense of me talking too much, just a fantastic movie. It's not perfect, but it's one of the best 80s horror movies in my opinion. And it's not even like a really big debate in my mind. It's just one of the best 80s horror movies. 9.5 out of 10. And the more I think about it, I actually have this rated right now. I have it rounded down to a 9 out of 10. But the more I think about it, I'm just going to round this up to a 10 out of 10. I put my money where my mouth is.
I mean, I've been struggling between giving either an 8 or a 9. And I know a lot of people, especially if I choose to give it an 8, they're going to be like, I mean, how are you going to give this an 8, considering most people probably give it a 9 or a 10 out of 10? Obviously, the majority of the horror fans out there would probably say this is a better movie than, say, Child's Play. But obviously, I like Child's Play more, because it's my favorite movie.
How does it feel being so wrong?
It feels good. I'll give it a 9. I'll give it a 9.
Now, I guess here's the random question of the night. Aside from Nightmare on Elm Street, what other movies terrified you when you were a kid?
Well, my two favorite horror movies, Child's Play and the original It, they both did, and I guess that's why they're my top 2, but, well, there's, beyond how they scared me, there's other things I like about them, but, it's an interesting question, because I really have to think.
You have to find your inner child.
Yeah.
I just thought this one up because, there's always, well, for a lot of people, there's like some random movies, everybody maybe was scared with Nightmare on Elm Street or It. I mean, it's probably one of the most common movies I hear when this type of questions brought up, what impacted your childhood as far as horror movies are concerned. But this actually, and I probably mentioned this on the show before, but this is another somewhat forgotten Stephen King adaptation from the 90s called The Night Flyer, which was based off one of his short stories. I don't think the short story it's based off of is even particularly good, but the movie, it's one of those movies I saw bits and pieces when I was a kid, and it just terrified me, much like this one did. And in fact, I think I was even younger seeing scenes from that movie than this one. I just distinctly remember seeing scenes from Nightfly when I was a kid, and I still remember which scenes too. So even though the movie itself isn't necessarily great, when it comes to I guess nostalgic horror feels, that's probably one of my most random top rated ones.